Executive Director of NIPS, Managing Directors and CEOs here present, all industry operators, all customers of financial institutions, all journalists present, and distinguished ladies and gentlemen. My task is actually very simple. And that task is to welcome you and to tell you to feel at home, even though you are not at home. And to also intimate you of what to expect as part of the activities for today. As I welcome you to the Q4 General Meeting of NeFF and to this very impactful theme. And that theme, if you take a look at it, social engineering, financial fraud, and cybersecurity in Nigeria, you'll see that a typical English teacher would look at the qualifiers. There is fraud, there is financial fraud, then there is social engineering, financial fraud. And at this time in our history, the average person will be interested in this topic because nobody wants to lose anything. Nobody wants to lose money. In fact, economists usually say that the economic ideology of capitalism is built on the assumption that every consumer is rational. So when they ask them, who is a rational consumer? A rational consumer is a consumer that prefers more to less. The average person prefers more to less. We don't want to lose anything. And you know, because we are very religious in Nigeria, we'll say, may we never lose anything. Amen. And we are also honored to have the Deputy Governor here, who will also be giving opening remarks. And before I go and take my seat, I would like to thank all the people that have put this together. They toiled day and night to ensure that this happens. We thank all of them. And by the end of today, we would have been able to achieve 3 objectives. That is to educate and inform all banks and other stakeholders about the emerging pattern in fraud, the typology of fraud, and also talk about how to proactively share fraud information and fraud data, and also about crafting and formulating strategies to ensure that fraudsters are fought to a standstill. And that's the one-point agenda of NeFF. Fight fraud until the fraud is no more. Fight fraudsters to a standstill. So on this note, I would like to welcome everyone again to this occasion. At the last CB conference, I delivered a speech and it was fairly long. But on this particular one, I've come to the end so as to also demonstrate to my naysayers that I'm capable of delivering short speeches. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chair NeFF. Indeed, communication expert says the best speeches are those that are short but cover everything like a lady's sketch. So, Mr. Chair, you have proven that you can deliver short speeches but very impactful. You spoke to the purpose and the essence of this gathering, and NeFF, when you did say it is all about fighting fraud to a standstill. Once again, we would like to thank you and all those who have put this together. And we are sure that at the end of the conversations today, we would have succeeded through the knowledge shared in being one step ahead of the bad guys. Moving on, it is time to invite for the opening remarks, the special guest of honor, the Deputy Governor, Financial System Stability, Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Philip Ikeazo. Like I announced earlier, the Deputy Governor is here represented by Mr. Kunle Adeniji. Deputy Governor, sir, please do have the floor.
Thank you very much. And good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let me stand on existing protocol. The chairman of the forum and the acting director, Payment System Services, said that his task was easy. Mine is a lot easier. I've just been directed to go and read my speech. So I'll be reading the Deputy Governor's speech. But before that, he sends his warm greeting. He had planned to be here himself, but for some pressing engagement and logistical issues, he directed yesterday night that I come in to represent him. So his speech goes forth. Esteemed members of the Nigerian Electronic Forum, Fraud Forum, distinguished guests, it is an honor to join you today as we convene for the end of year meeting under the APT team, Social Engineering, Financial Fraud, and Cybersecurity in Nigeria. In my role as the Deputy Governor for Financial System Stability at the Central Bank of Nigeria, I'm well aware of both the challenges and opportunities that this team presents. In today's rapidly evolving digital landscape, the financial sector stands at a crossroad where the more we innovate, the greater the vulnerabilities we are obliged to address. As digital transactions increasingly become the norm, so also does the sophistication of threats that aim to exploit them. Social engineering fraud, a particularly deceptive and damaging form of financial crime, poses increasing risks to our financial stability and individual security, which in turn feeds on the trust and confidence in our payment systems. Our mission today is thus clear: to discuss how to strengthen our defenses against these threats, ensuring that the Nigerian payment system remains resilient, safe, and secure in the face of evolving cyber challenges. I have no doubt in my mind that this might require not only cutting-edge cybersecurity solutions, but most importantly, a concerted effort to educate and empower all stakeholders, be it the banks, payment service providers, or consumers of their services. The Nigerian Electronic Fraud Forum has over the years shown the power of collaboration in overcoming these challenges. By harnessing the collective expertise and insights of its members, the forum has made great strides in protecting our nation's payment system. As we engage in discussions today, let us focus on developing innovative solutions while cultivating a culture of vigilance and resilience. Our shared goal is to fortify our financial system against the various tactics of social engineering fraudsters and to enhance our cyber security posture. As we move into 2025, financial institutions, including banks and fintechs, will be required to implement more stringent know your customer procedures and conduct enhanced due diligence to minimize fraud incidents through their e-payment channels. In addition, the central bank would be mandating that institutions also adopt RegTech solutions to enhance compliance with regulatory requirements in a more efficient and cost-effective manner. Efforts to align the financial sector with global trends in e-payment development must remain a priority. To drive greater efficiency, I urge participants to prioritize staff training and capacity building in key areas such as compliance, customer service, audit, and audit. I extend my gratitude to all of you for your dedication and commitment to safeguarding Nigeria's payment system. It is my belief that together we can create a robust defense against the threats we are confronted with and reinforce the trust and integrity that underpin our nation's financial system. So once again, I want to thank you for your attention, and I anticipate that we're going to have an insightful deliberation at this meeting, and look and hope that we move forward with determination and unity to make meaningful and lasting advancements in our fight against financial fraud. Thank you.
Please, let's put our hands together one more time. Mr. Kunle Adeniji there, representing the Deputy Governor of Financial System Stability. For me, the key takeaway is moving forward with unity and determination in this fight against fraud. Thank you very much. Our best wishes to the Deputy Governor when you do go back, sir. And now, we will be proceeding to the next item on the program flow, which is the keynote presentation. The keynote presenter requires no introduction, certainly not to this forum. But each time you listen to him, you take away a fresh nugget of knowledge, especially on issues around why we are assembled. Today, it is his lot to speak to us on cybercrime trends in Nigeria, predicting the threat for 2030. And I would invite all participants to please be attentive as I welcome on stage Mr. Premier Oyo, Chief Executive Officer, Nigeria Interbank Settlement System PLC.
Good morning, everybody. I stand on existing protocol, but I think I have a problem. Not with the podium, but the acting director gave a very short speech. The DG's representative got away out by just reading the prepared speech by the DG, but I have to answer for myself while I stand here. So God will help me, and the MC have said people take away knowledge. I pray and I hope that you're able to take away something. So you can see the multiple problems that I have this morning, but I'll try and get over it. I'm so happy to be here and thankful for what CB and NeFF putting this together. So I think this sharing my presentation. Okay, well, pending when it's projected, I will just start so I can save time. And the topic is quite clear. The cybercrime trend in Nigeria, as well as predicting the threat landscape for 2030. I think Nigeria is an interesting country in terms of our online journey and payment, and a lot has been achieved in Nigeria. I'll just go to the overview of cybercrime trends. There's so much rapid digitization process. Internet adoption and expanding global access to technology have fueled a surge in cybercrime. It's now a business of its own, a multi-business with a lot of actors. From recent study, Nigerian companies experienced 3,759 cyber attacks per week. Most, of course, are unreported, at least double the global average. Cybercrime in Nigeria has evolved from phishing crimes and email fraud to more sophisticated methodology. Bad actors exploit human psychology, trust, system vulnerability, and emerging technologies. Combating these threats require collective responsibility and action within the ecosystem. If you look at the global financial landscape, $190 trillion cross-border payments in 2023. $190 trillion. And 575.1 billion real-time payments in terms of counts took place in the same, it's expected by 2028, which means it's growing rapidly. And 12.87 billion global online banking market value in 2023, and there 174 billion cyber security spending expected in 2024. As the payments, digital payments deepen, so also is the defense for cyber crime growing, and it's all for cyber threats, and this is quite clear. Then 330 billion open banking payments expected by 2027. These are all global payments. And then if you look at the next slide, we talk about tracking cybercrime trend in Nigeria. Fraud counts is always on the increase. If you see the counts there in 2023, as against December of 2022, as against 2023, and you can see the trend. In 2022, you have an increased count, is year on year. If you go to the other slide in terms of actual sums lost so far, 66.85 billion. This is in Nigeria. This is the one reported, and this is coming out from NIPS. This is reported fraud, not the unreported fraud. Clearly, looking at this, there is a problem. So if we devote a percentage of this amount to fighting cyber crime and cyber security, then the ecosystem will benefit from it. If you move to the next slide, what are the forms of cyber social engineering fraud? What forms? You have the pig butchering. Fraud syndicates recruit mold through pig butchering scams. Potential victims are lured with business opportunities, romance, and different things. When trust is gained, then the fraudsters will strike. You also have the phishing email, which is very common. Sometimes the email comes from your bank, and we are not patient enough to check and understand. There's always something to give these emails away. But again, even some well-schooled individuals who are financial experts are probably victims to this phishing email. That's how sophisticated they are. And most of them come with rewards. And when you are expecting reward or you want to take a reward, then they harvest all your details, which could affect not just you as an individual, even your company. Then the WhatsApp hack. I don't know if there's anybody in this room that have not received. Please quickly send me money. I'll give it back to you tomorrow. I think everybody in Nigeria today is something that is prevalent and will continue until we deal with it. Then you now have the synthetic identity fraud, sleeper mole opening accounts. This is a NeFF forum. One of the major threats is a situation where accounts have been opened, by my estimate, in millions across the ecosystem, and the owners of these accounts are not in charge or in control of the accounts. They are with these actors. It exists in every bank. We have seen it. We have arrested people who confess to it. So that is a major threat staring at all of us today. But so if you now look at the how did things get to this bad from the needs perspective and the fraud crime? The challenges in Nigeria, digital landscape, fraud. Fraud remains a major concern within the ecosystem. To every player, we are dealing with a product that everybody wants. Cash, money, everybody wants it. Some people work hard for it. Others, they see it as a game. A game. Once we arrested somebody, a 26-year-old boy, cyber expert, fraudster. He never stole all the money straight to him taken. He did not take it for himself. If he looks at you, you are sad. All he asks for is your account number. In the next 24 hours, you get a credit. I'm not joking. I interviewed him when he was arrested. Nothing was traced to his account. We call him the modern-day cyber Robin Hood. And he was just giving out money to people. Then you have talked about the internet accessibility. Internet is now readily available to everybody. Latest figures from the NCC put broadband presentation at 43, penetration of 43.5% in the country. Everybody is online today in Nigeria. Then cybersecurity attacks. In recent reports, Cyber Vendor noted that a spike of cybersecurity attack in Nigeria with almost 600,000 attacks in H1 of 2024. 600,000 cyber attacks. The report identified areas where organizations appear to be struggling as outdated equipment, limited manpower, lack of knowledge of human errors. What is the level of the people manning our cybersecurity desk in most organizations? Digital literacy and awareness, a very big problem. Very big problem. There's total lack of awareness within the populace, including in this room, almost all of us. People hear about cybercrime, cybersecurity, but do they understand the implication and how to mitigate or what to be done? Then the sophistication of the cyber criminals. These guys are experts who have studied, trained, and sometimes even been used by some governments. What is our defense line as a nation? Weak security infrastructures across most of the organizations. There is nothing, there's no best defense, but you have to continuously, because as the threats and the attackers improve, then we also have to keep improving on our defense line. Inadequate incident response. How do we respond to these incidences when they occur? Do we even prep for it? Sometimes when you talk about cybersecurity, the response you get is, God will not allow that to happen to us. God forbid. For short, God forbid, God forbid. That is the standard incident response you get. But yes, God forbid, but guess what? The attackers are praying, you are praying, and when two parties pray, God will generally just stay up and watch the best person to win. Social and cultural factors, trust in authority and in reporting. We are all shy to talk about it. The use of social media has increased tremendously. Now, the evolution of the monster called fraud, how did we get here? Why is it so easy? Insider collaboration, staff involvement is critical. If there's a phishing email and you have trained your staff and yet they don't apply themselves, it becomes a problem. Some are deliberate. There are also more staffs within the ecosystem that are constantly being lured. After 3 years of serving faithfully our Lord Jesus Christ, Judas Iscariot's what? Betrayed him. And if, like I always tell my colleagues, if Jesus Christ in his Son of God picked 12 men led by the Holy Spirit, and among them was a Judas Iscariot. Back in our offices, 1,000 staff, we are sinners. How many Judas Iscariots do we have? In our speak, they are disciples. I'll leave that answer to you. Failure in respect of stigmatization. People worry, oh, I'll be stigmatized. So they don't even report, they don't talk about it. They are shy because the ecosystem will not forgive you. But actually, when you suffer this, sometimes you get better. Then instances of institutional negligence. The DG's representative spoke to the issue of KYC. I'm very excited about that. We got bad in this level because KYC has been thrown overboard. I have said this repeatedly that it is easier to open an account in Nigeria than anywhere else in the world. You can actually open an account for a goat. I have seen picture of a tree with an account number. An animal can have an account in Nigeria. I'm not joking. So I'm very happy about this KYC that the central bank is pushing. And the area of collaboration. The action the CBN took within the past 2 weeks in the industry, which some of us are aware of, is yielding dividend. Serious dividend. For the first time last night, I got a call from a bank MD, one of the big banks. What were they doing? That never happened in a long time. Another bank received 1 billion naira transfer. And that bank froze the money immediately. And called another big bank received and called another big bank. I got this morning, it doesn't align with the pattern of this account. And they called me, the other MD called me immediately, and everybody swung into action across. Till very late yesterday, until we traced the source and everything, that it did emanate from a third bank. And the third bank said, oh, sorry, we don't know this beneficiary. So how did 1 billion leave your account? We traced that. They later confirmed that it was an error. Error into an account, 1 billion. But guess what? I called the MD of the bank where it emanated from, and I said, until you give me a personal instruction in writing, this 1 billion will not move. And I called beneficiary bank until you get a letter from me and a voice confirmation. The 1 billion should what? Remain in place. But that, we all went to bed sleeping, but we're happy. That would never have happened if the CBN action in the past 2 weeks did not take place. I mean, 1 billion is a deposit. Just collect it into an individual's account who is a salary earner. How? I'm so happy that the necessary tools and the reawakening of the industry. You know, I was a banker for years. Go to a bank and try to withdraw from your account 100,000. They will take your blood and check your DNA. But if you are creating the account, it's often very difficult. Actually, they just take it and you go. Later, they credit you. I mean, we've all experienced it. Sometimes you're even asking, why have my account not been credited? With the same due diligence you do for debit, should be applied for credit. And that is what is necessary. This is an era of digital payment. Phones move faster with the speed of light. So KYC is absolutely necessary, and the responsibility of every player. Yesterday, the acting director, payment system, said something. You can open an account for anybody, but you must be able to explain to the regulator the nature and purpose of that account. I love that. Nature and purpose. I come to you, I open an account, and I say, okay, I'm a salary earner. All of a sudden, I get 500 million, 1 billion to the account. Does the nature and purpose of that account explain the inflow? No. If you understand that nature and purpose, you will avoid trouble and then stop this. So anybody opening an account, because the first level, that's why the cyber actors are getting away with everything, because we've thrown away the basic banking rules which our ancestors passed to us. Our ancestors used cowries, trade by barter, then cowries, went to cash. We have brought in the digital age, which we imported, right? And also created innovation around it. But we are ignoring the threat that comes with it. We need to focus now, more than ever before, on the threat. Starting with that KYC component. Then technology vulnerability, obsolete system. A lot of people hold on to obsolete system. And the reason is simple, cost. Everybody is looking at cost. How do I reduce my cost? And as a CEO, the first area they look at is technology cost. We must find a way to ensure that our systems are not obsolete, and then they are able to deliver absolute value and purpose. Knowledge gap. Today, the Japa syndrome. most organizations are downgrading their CISOs. I think that's a problem. You can't fight crime with children. I'm sorry, I mean, that's how to describe it. Just like asking your children to secure your house for you, then why are you the father? We need people who are well experienced to be encouraged. That group alone, there's a depth of knowledge within the CISOs. That's why the MSSPs are being engaged. How do we make sure that these guys are well trained, robustly, encouraged, and retained at a very high level? I see no reason why a compliance, the requirement for compliance is general manager. I think a CISO should also be a GM, minimum, because that is the defense line for the entire ecosystem. And a weak link can come from anybody. And you have to make sure everywhere is protected, the experience is adequately available. Weak digital literacy across the population. People don't understand. I mean, every day, no matter how educated, no matter how you train people, I'm sure before we leave this room, somebody will get a call. Please, there's a code for parents meeting this afternoon. Can you give me the code? It's on your phone. And guess what? People give. It happens every day. There was a night we had a meeting with 2 CBN directors, bank MDs and so on, discussing fraud. Till late in the night, around 9:30 p.m., all of us in the group got alert to send money for an urgent money. And we were wondering, are they attending the meeting with us? Right? So, but since we are aware in the group, somebody just said, oh, I just got this. And all of us looked at our phone. 4 of us out of 6 or 7 got the same message. If we're not aware, and the message was, you can imagine it's just like the governor or the DG sending all of us a message, please kindly send me 200,000. I need it I'm stranded somewhere. The most likely was that, so this DG or governor love me so much, he's borrowing money from me. You transfer the money. Meanwhile, it's not the governor. It's not. So that's what, I mean, that day, the person that sent that message is a well-known, respected individual. It's somebody that I would love to give money to. But I looked at it and said, hi. And all of us looked at it and we laughed. The phone has been hijacked. And again, maybe attending parents' meeting. I gave out a code. Alarming incidents observed across the ecosystem. Financial institutions fail to watchlist BVNs, confirmed to be involved in fraudulent activities. We are all afraid to report. Why? As we are holding our conference, the fraudsters are meeting. I've listened to videos where they are training. It's true. I've listened. But within the ecosystem, we are not collaborating. The central bank over the years have released a lot of circulars. The interesting thing is, go back to the compendium of these circulars from 2015. There's nothing that is not there. There's absolutely nothing. How do we adhere? Why are we not reporting BVNs for watchlisting? If you do that, it will change behavior. The central bank in its wisdom also directed the industry to have the ICAR database. A lot of us do not update the ICAR database. The benefit outweighs whatever disadvantage. Why are we not complying? In December 2023, the central bank issued another release encouraging every financial institution to open an account relying on NIN or BVN for certain tiers of account. At least about 115 million Nigerians are holding the NIN today. BVN, we have 65 million Nigerians. But yet, we still have accounts opened without BVN or with fake BVNs. So, absence of proper governance. Yes, there's a CBN regulation that talked about governance in terms of how accounts are operated. But in your organization, how do you review your processes in terms of no transaction in an account It's as if we are all waiting for rewards from the number of accounts that we have. I did banking for 28 years. By my training, the more accounts you have, or the more accounts that are inactive, the less productive you are, and serious capacity on your system. There's what they call earnings per account. Then when I was in banking, for an account to be profitable, you must make a minimum of 2,500 naira from that customer in 1 year. And if your account is dormant or inactive, you can't make 1 kobo. How are you making your money? From the top 20% and then keeping the rest and then doing the ecosystem. So the dormant account, what are we doing about it? Who is reviewing them? I'm going to the most alarming part of it. The rampant and indiscriminate increases of transaction limits. The central bank memos or circulars are very clear. In one of such, as an MMO operating a third-tier account, transaction limit is supposed to be 5 million per day. How does a fraudster open an account same day, receive 400 million same day within an hour, and transfer 400 million out within 1 hour? Do you know what that tells? That we, the senior guys in the industry, are collaborators. Nigeria is on the grey list. CBN is battling, the government is battling to get us off. Because if we don't get out of it, we are heading into the blacklist. And if we do, it's a ticket to hell. And I told some bank MDs, we might land in any airport around the world, say this one's an MD, come closer. You're holding a Nigerian passport from a blacklisted country, and you're a bank MD, or you're playing the financial sector. It could get to that level. Not just for the MD, for all of us in this room. That is how deadly it is, because we are not doing what is right. How do you look at a customer, a boy born in 2002, his turnover no more than 10,000 naira, will receive 600 million into his account. And the funny thing is that the money will go out. You find people opening accounts without shirts. They are lying down on their bed. My colleagues were asking me, why is shirtless? I said, because they are playing games, video games. And we are the pawns, we are the fools. It's the truth. Some wear cap like this, you turn it around and they are smiling because it's a game for them. We are the enablers and the problem, and we know what to do. The one I can't understand is how do you breach the CBN circular that was put in place? How many Nigerians can transfer 1 million, even in this room, per transaction? How many? Then you find a bus conductor, some of the actors, you open an account in some banks, they give you instant transfer limit of 5 million, and we all keep quiet. We should scream. So we have to fix that, and we have to go home and fix all that. Enterprise fraud management tool. The CBN policy, even directed as at 2015, directed that there must be an EFM. But when you ask different operators, you get different description and analysis of what an EFM is. I spoke to one bank. They felt that an EFM is designed to just take picture of the transaction and show it to you. Then you look at it, because you are pursued by turnaround time, you release the money. No. Let an EFM tool catch your transaction abroad. It will require the chief compliance officer sign off for that money to be released. That's why it's called a tool, not a customer service issue. You need to explain. Most of the fraud we've seen, even those who have the EFM, the enterprise fraud tool, it stopped it. But they released it because of what? Customer service. And that's why when the director spoke to the issue of KYC, I was very happy. If you have given the money to your customer, bring the customer. The commissioner of police is here. SFU, EFCC, DG, DSS. Most told this guy, bring your customers. Today, you can't find these customers. Where is the KYC? Who did the address verification? Poor staff profiling. How do we profile our staffs? You know, I think in the 18th century, there was this rule about the banking, the kind of bankers you should have. The first day I went on a training and they played it to us. I said, these guys are very wicked. Why won't a banker live a rich life? But it was quite clear. You have a staff that dress more than you pay him. A staff that parks the latest car outside. Even if he's from a rich home, sack him. No, it was clear. They wrote it in 18-something. Those ancestors who sat down to write it have a reason for it. And that's what we see today. Find people come to work. People ask you, how long have you done this job? Say 30 years. God forbid, I can't be here for 30 years. Then where are you going to? And how do you get to where you're going to? People see your car outside, say, oh God, this guy is fine. I can't wait to buy mine. Maybe next year, thereabout. Fire him. Because you know his salary. How is he going to buy it? So the staff profiling is very important. I was sharing with a group the other day that when I was in Diamond Bank, we noticed a particular fraud going on repeatedly. And we did some profiling. You know the strange thing? We found out that everybody involved in the fraud in the past 6 months were graduates of one particular university. Then we positioned CCTV straight into that branch and we were monitoring it. Somewhere up country, our head office was on this road and we were monitoring that branch 24/7. And we see how they hold meetings. The one in schools who were learning trade come into the branch, discuss, fraud will happen. You know what we did? With the approval of the MD, everybody in that location transferred across the country. We scattered them and we stopped recruiting anybody from that university. And we kept our eyes on each person. If fraud happens where you are, then you are the new person there. That is staff profiling. You need to understand what is going on with your staff. It's very important. Non-reporting of fraud, incidents to the central reporting. CBN put it. We all sat down in 2015. Luckily, I was in the room. And we agreed, let's create a central fraud reporting system. I have seen that report. Even the CBN has never asked us, which bank did this one happen to? Which bank? They just want the report for analysis and then action. Most of us have issues we don't report. We just bury it. That has to change. Tracking key cyber trends. Broadly speaking, Lagos counts as most of the incidents reported. You know why now? We also have one of the largest population, apart from Kano. And then we are tech-savvy. So Lagos accounts for a lot. However, the process of investigating consistently indicates that bad actors tend to relocate to other remote parts before conducting a heist. This is due to perceived difficulty in the triangulation of these precise locations when they relocate. But with the advent of various security tools, I think there's no hiding place. For those of you on partisan group, there was one day, I normally don't chat on the group. I'm a sleeper individual in most of the groups. I just listen and read. But I proved a point on that partisan group one day where somebody, you know, when you are, after a long while of misbehavior, you become very bold. Just imagine if I walk to Oga Commissioner now and steal his wallet. No be that, be that. And that was exactly what happened. These guys hijacked a DSS staff phone, WhatsApp, and they started collecting money and duping DSS people. No be that, be that. But when the issue came up, like the director we asked, why do we stop at blocking the account? What next? And that was the issue. I was very upset that day. And I supported that claim to tell you what is capable in Nigeria. We said, no, we must find this guy. By 8 a.m., some of us met. By 12 noon, the actor was in handcuffs in this country. 12 noon. For those who are on that group, all I did was to post his picture back, and I wrote there captured and left the news. People came, how? I said, just to prove that we are the ones encouraging fraud. If we all go after it, it will stop. NeFF, in terms of awareness, in NeFF, we've been sending out a lot of awareness campaign. And I would like to encourage everybody to do the same. The CeBIH chairman has been, as part of his cardinal point, focused on dealing with fraud. We all have to support CeBIH. We have to engage. We have to pull funds together. We all have to put the funds together. The industry is very good at putting funds together to achieve certain purposes. We did it for BVN. We did it for a whole lot of others. We did it to set up NeFF. This is the right time to do it again to save the industry. The future of digital payment. Projected digital payment trends, it will continue to grow. We can't stop it. And it's even cash. There will always be cash, don't get me wrong, but there are also some societies where it's quite difficult to use cash, whether the local currency or dollar. Electronic payment. China is one. India is another. You offer cash, they tell you, scan this QR code and pay. It has happened to me, I've experienced this. They don't want my cash. I tried the Chinese currency, it was rejected. I said, okay, these people don't know anything, I'm a Nigerian. I have dollar in my pocket, I brought out dollar. And they asked me, what is that? What currency is this? And they told me they've never seen a dollar before. But guess what? Scan this card, this QR code. So e-commerce will continue to grow. And as it grows, so also fraud will go with it. That's one trend I see. Then collaboration between banks and fintechs. That is necessary as we move forward. Not we versus them or them versus us. You need the collaboration. What the fintechs can do, a traditional bank cannot do it. That's the truth. They are agile, but also controlled by regulation, and then the banks have the experience to create the blend. So that collaboration must be pursued. Then innovative payment options. There was a video that was making the rounds, I think in the past couple of days. A man who walked into a store, picked up things, and just used his palm to make payments. In China, his account was debited and he walked out. When we went to China, these guys actually scanned our palms, and from one office to the other, this is how we're opening the doors. The same palm you can use to debit your account. So that's to tell you the next level. These things are already happening in that part of the world. We get here. And I predict. My name is Premier, not Nostradamus. A time will come when I will look at the director, money will just transfer into his account. So we need to plan for it. So those are innovative payments. So QR is there. We also have the biometric payments and the virtual card and the M-POS. And a lot of these things will be deepened within the ecosystem. And with the current Gen Z, most of them have a smartphone, social media. Most of them, talk to most of them, they've not ended up, some of them have not been to banking halls. They just transact on the phone. Layering identity on payment, you continue to see identity and payment coming together. That's already happening with Afrigo. If you go to India with Aadhaar and the Rupee, it's happening. In China, the same thing. Because you cannot separate, and that's where the KYC comes from. KYC is critical in payment, and where do you get the KYC? From identity. So you continue to see that deepening relationship, like NIMC and Afrigo is trying to achieve in Nigeria. Then CBDC development. A lot of governments and central banks around the world will continue to pursue the CBDC. AI and money laundering solutions. You cannot run away from it. The bad actors will continue to try to penetrate. And we have to tighten up. And you have to depend on AIs and some other innovative skills. But guess what? An AI is as good as the programmer. This morning on CNN, they were showing robots that are beginning to take over human functions. On CNN this morning. And you know what's going on my mind? Assuming this robot gets angry and strangles the owner, how do you get out of it? Command function, which means that somebody should also be involved in programming and review of those programming, monitoring. So AI is very important and will be used more because it has to be machine learning. A lot of activities required to get to that right level. Then the new open banking use cases. As we are aware, the central bank has already put together the framework and is looking at that for open banking. With open banking comes massive innovation. Massive. It's required in Nigeria, and we're going to get there. It's already happening in different parts of the world. That will create the required collaboration between the fintechs and the banks eventually. So you hold the data, and then other people can create benefit for the owners or for whoever wants to. So strategic digital initiative, potential targets of cybercrime. AI is projected to develop more sophisticated cyber attacks. They even use AIs now for attacks. Trained, making it harder to detect and respond to threats. What's our response as an industry and as a nation? Cybercrime will increasingly target critical digital public infrastructure, posing significant risks to national security and economic stability. The adoption of blockchain technology and digital currency is expected to fuel new forms of cybercrime hacking digital servers. The man who made a pencil made an eraser. Even if he didn't make the eraser, another person is working to provide the eraser. Other fast emerging trends include ransomware, business email compromise, which you all know, then advanced persistent threats, APIs, are sophisticated and sustained cyber attacks, targeting specific people or organizations. But we can win this war. We can. The first thing is the mind. What are the solutions? Enforcing minimum skill set, CISOs and head fraud desk, and similar roles. Has anybody ever seen any police station that is locked? Locked. Say they're on vacation or they've gone to church. Please, if you have, just raise up your hand. I don't think anybody has seen. As if the day they open one, the keys are thrown away. So why will your front desk be unmanned? Why would they be unreachable? Or the CISOs, you call them, and the kind of questions they ask you, you'll be wondering. You know clearly that the experience is not there. Compulsory implementation of enterprise fraud management system. This should be made mandatory. Compulsory. I'm happy with the CBN action in the past 2 weeks. 2 bank MDs have called me to confirm that their staff are requesting for tools to monitor inflows. And I smiled, I said, yes, now we are getting there. 2015, the CBN prescribed this. If you ask anybody today, they will respond, yes, we do have it. Does it work? Holistic ecosystem collaboration with law enforcement and investigative agencies. We need to be more open to one another. In the past 2 weeks, I've spent 34 years in the industry. In the past 2 weeks, I've seen more collaboration with fraud fighting. After the CBN action, more willingness, more exposure. As of yesterday, I was looking at some documents that was released by one of the organizations. Now we are getting to the answers of where the fraud is coming from. We are beginning to see pictures of the activities and everything, better than the one that was kept before. So I commend the CBN for the action they've taken. And that's the way to stop it. So that is promoting collaboration. I just explained about the 1 billion of yesterday. Collaboration also. There's increased collaboration at MD level. These are very big banks. The MD called me in the night. Check this for us. The chief inspector was on guard, everybody on guard. Then extensive KYC due diligence for customer onboarding. The CBN called a meeting with a group of us less than a week ago, and one of them announced we have closed 3 million accounts. In these past 2 weeks, closed 3 million accounts. Guess what? All the accounts are sleeper accounts, mole accounts. I told the director yesterday that there was a drug they served to an organization in this industry. After serving that drug, in the past 6 months, you don't find a single fraud in that organization anymore. You don't find it again. In 6 months, in the past 6 months here. I was begging him yesterday, I said, can you give all of us the drug? You know, sometimes even if you are not sick, it's good to take the drug. In case the disease was to come, you'll be well, right? You'll be prepared for it. Let them spread that kind of disease, that kind of drug to everybody. Then efficient profiling for transaction limits setup. How can a man who has never seen 20,000 in his life walk into you and said, I need 400 million transfer limit, and a banker will enable it and it will be authorized? That is criminal. It's insane. And you want to blame CBN for any action or blame anybody for any action? Blame your processes. There are basic rules. You look at your turnover. Look at everything. Your turnover is 50,000. Your income is, some are even 2,000 naira, some 1,000. And you have 200 million transfer limits in one day. What's the guideline? Those are the problems. How do they get? I asked a bank chairman, can you explain to me how these persons, look at his picture, achieve a transfer limit of 400 million? If you can tell me, I will be okay. That's all I want, because I'm an ex-banker. NeFF will take light. Not PSC, and it's NeFF. So we need to watch that across the ecosystem, because the ease with which we give out the transfer limit is also fueling this. I mean, you want to serve, we'll have digital banks abroad. Go there now. Say you have a smartphone, try and open an account for yourself. It's impossible. Everything required is checked and tested. So we need to get to that level in the country. Then review and enforcement of agency banking operation, which I think the central bank is looking in terms of limits. Then partnership with SEC on policies and monitoring of virtual assets solution providers. Everybody talk about crypto. When central bank banned crypto, everybody was shouting and so on. But the truth is that it's happening in the US, happening in other matured economies. But there's no way the CIA, FBI, and every security agency will not understand that crypto and find anybody that receives payment. Why are kidnappers not using it to collect payments in the US and so on? Why are fraudsters not using it? But in Nigeria, it has become a mode of payment for every crime. We can't find anybody. But I'm happy. I think the CBN is looking at that. And so as part of the solution, as I'm rounding up, should be public awareness campaign by everybody, either as an industry or individually. Engage your customers, and then let's continue to keep people aware. Too much awareness is not a bad thing. Strengthen cybersecurity infrastructure. We must all continue to share information, share knowledge, and invest in these solutions. And also understand it. A machine is as good as the person who set it up. You can go and spend money to buy the best application. If you give it to people to set up who don't understand what they are setting up, it's not going to work, but it will work elsewhere. Employee training. While you are creating the public awareness, please create the internal awareness as well. It's very important that you train your employees to understand the risk around cybercrime. Legislative and regulatory enhancement is very important. We must work closely with law enforcement and even the judiciary. We must let them understand these processes and so on. Most times, we have to guide them. Most times, they don't understand it. But those of us that understand it, are we out there to provide the necessary information? It's important. So, as a body, as an industry, I think we should provide adequate training for law enforcement. If they need to go abroad to learn all these things, buy them the right tool, and the judiciary, I think it should be provided. Incident response framework is very important. It's there, but do we practice it? The organization, what do they do? Sometimes the news fraud desk will tell me they are calling an entire bank, nobody's responding. They now have to call the MD. How does that work? It's supposed to be 24/7. I've spoken about collaboration among stakeholders. We must all collaborate. It's either we collaborate and stand together, or we collaborate and fail together. Cybersecurity awareness in schools. You can't shut down the internet anymore, and you can't take smartphone from people. What can happen is that you continue to deepen. So as it's deepening, is this something that the government should introduce as part of curriculum in schools? At least to let people have a perfect understanding that, yes, while you're on the internet, freeway, these are the threats. You know, when you are traveling, there's a reason why they put speed limit 100 kilometers per hour, 60 kilometers per hour. Who is providing the speed limit on the internet or the warning signs? Today, our children pick our phone, they are doing different things. Do you know what they've downloaded? Sometimes something pop up, you just want $10,000. Okay, which game did you play that you're winning $10,000? Click here to download. They click. And then they harvested your information. So perhaps training. Encourage secure practices, always. Password must not be shared. If they have 2FA, it has to be used. Monitor social media platforms. What are your staff doing? Some organizations' staff actually use their official password, official email address and password on social media platform. That's a risk, a major one. The platform you are going to, do you know who is controlling it? Do you know who is behind the scene? So you have to monitor your staff practices across the social media platform. Then, like I said earlier, utilize artificial intelligence. In ending, social engineering crimes will continue, and cybercrime will continue and will stay with us as we head to 2030. But what is required is concerted effort by everybody to ensure that we continue to collaborate, share information, knowledge. It's not an area to compete. It's an area to share knowledge and work together. And so that by the time we get to 2030, we'll be well prepared as a nation. And I also think that as a nation, I know we're working on, there was a plan for the national SOC. I think we need it more than ever. Today, the industry SOC, I think we should revisit that and also revisit the national SOC. The industry SOC was suspended for the national SOC because it will be an appellation rather than duplication. But right now, I don't think anyone is too much. Launch the industry, launch the national, so that we continue to prepare for attackers who might not be local, maybe foreign, both for local and foreign attackers to be ready. Thank you very much, everyone, and thank you for listening.
Will it be too much if I ask that we give him a more resounding round of applause? Thank you very much. I told you that each time he speaks, there is a new wealth of knowledge to be acquired. Mr. Premier, you were there delivering the first keynote presentation on cybercrime trends in Nigeria, predicting the threat landscape for 2030. And key, if you sum up all he has said with the fact that through collaboration and shared knowledge, we will win this fight, because it is a fight that is winnable. We said it is a fight that is winnable. If you're just joining us, it is the Q4 2024 General Meeting of the Nigeria Electronic Fraud Forum with the theme Social Engineering, Financial Fraud, and Cybersecurity in Nigeria. And you had just listened to the keynote presentation on cybercrime trends in Nigeria, the threat landscape for 2030, delivered by Mr. Premier Oiwo, the CEO, Nigeria Interbank Settlement System PLC. And now that presentation will be accompanied by questions, if there are any. Of course, there should be a few. I will be guided by time. So if you have any questions for Mr. Premier following his presentation, could you please indicate? I see a hand at the end of the hall. Yes, 1, 2. I see 2 hands. So do I assume, or now 3? But all are from the right side of the hall. What is happening here? Okay, is that a hand? It take. So 2, all right. So I think that will be fine. 1, 2, you sir, yes sir, and then the 3 here. 4 where? Do we have the microphone? Technical there, the handheld mic, so that you can quickly tell them, please, the ground rules. You see, the presenter has delivered a very elaborate address and very laden with facts. We wouldn't want any speaker to attempt a recap of the presentation. So you will just go, I mean, that will be a tall order anyway, trying to recap what Mr. Premier has said. But we will appeal to you, just introduce yourself and ask your question within 60 seconds. Yes, what's up? Yes, okay. Technical, what's happening? We need the handheld mic quickly, yes. There is none here. Where do you have it? Keynote presenter was speaking. I observed of the CIBN worked into under Commissioner of Police. I'd like to just acknowledge your entry. Thank you very much, distinguished gentlemen. Thank you. All right, go ahead. Yes, madam. Please just come. Okay, just come forward. Please come forward. No problems. Just come forward, ma'am. Just take 3 here. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So please, again, I think what we'll do. I think technical, just don't bother trying to fix that. It's causing a lot of disruption. Let's just have 2 questions here and then you can do that before the next session, quickly. Yeah, please, just speak to it.
I want to be sure. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much, sir, for your presentation, rather. Okay, so I want to pick up from the conversation in relation to collaboration. What we've observed, I'm going to speak from a front desk perspective, is that sometimes when you reach out to banks and you say, oh, please look out for this transaction, or this transaction got to you with this amount, most of the time, well, not most of the time, a few times they say, oh, we haven't seen this transaction. Are you sure about this? And then much later, they come back to say, oh, yes, we finally have seen it. But of course, time has elapsed, and this person is making multiple transactions, across several banks. I brought that up because I think last year when we were in a meeting like this, the discussion as regards the use of blockchain came up for reasons bordering on transparency, so that what I see is what you're seeing at the same time. So I don't know if that has been shelved, but I think it may be important. So I don't know if we're going to kind of reconsider. If we're going to kind of reconsider that, given these trends, this is something we see very, very often. So that's my question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please let me just announce a change in the flow of proceedings. For the questions, please. I am directed. Yes, now. We're just going to take a second and final questions verbally now. Because we have a panel conversation, we appeal that all the others who I had earlier recognized, please just put your question in writing. We're going to address it at the level of the panel conversations because we are stretched for time now at this moment, and especially with the obstructions we're having with the mic. So we took one from here. I'm just going to take the second one from this. This was the gentleman who raised his hand first. Let's quickly have yours. Please, you, and just put it into writing, bring it forward. We're going to address it as much as possible at the panel conversations, right? Thank you very much for your understanding. Please, let's have yours, sir.
Okay, good morning. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Premier, for that wonderful insight. Mine is going to come from a little bit technical perspective as a takeaway from this section and a charge back to the industry. I've done a few statistics of banks that have actually done a full implementation of a behavioral monitoring solutions around fraud. And I struggle with this, that most of those deployments are not successful. And that's why we've been having this recurrent fraud across the industry. It's a major problem. Now, my charge back to the names and the industrial is this. Why can't we look at how we can put technical skills guys around various banks and implement fully a robust behavioral monitoring solution that's going to address the gap and put a stop to the gaming from these bad guys. I guess that is where our problem comes from in the industry that we need to address. Thank you very much. Oh, sorry, apologies about that.
Please just do that.
Okay, my name is Akintilo Akinshola, the CISO for Parallels Bank.
Okay, Parallels Bank. So, madam, I'm also not sure the first question here, you did introduce yourself so that it's properly curated. Please, the other people who are intended to ask the questions, just pass it through the NeFF Secretariat. We are collating it. I assure you it will be dealt with at the panel conversation. But we are trying to be very effective in time management. Just before, okay, Mr. Premier, you respond to that and then we'll move on.
Okay, no, sir, I understand unified payments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, no, sir. Now, you talked about the area of collaboration. Now, there are lots of practices you find. Today, the platform you are referring to, all the payment system we have in Nigeria today, have a messaging system for every organization to get back to and check the status of that payment. You're absolutely correct, and banks tell you sometimes they don't have the money. But I think, my personal opinion, is part of the deposit protection strategy of these individuals. But I think that has changed within the past 2 weeks. And it's not about blockchain. One of my best friends outside this country is Professor David Lee. He's a blockchain expert. I sat with him repeatedly. We've looked at the options and everything. I invited him to Nigeria. Every solution has its own, no matter how it's preached to you, has its own issues and so on. Professor Lee is an expert in blockchain. I can share his detail with you. I can talk to him. I was still with him last month. So today, there are messaging systems that confirms to you that payment is successful and is there. There are instances where even investigators trace money to a bank, trace maybe 10 million that was stolen. When the bank is returning the money, they will return 8 million and withhold 2 million. What do you call that? And I have a written letter by a suspect, but I told you to return 10 million. Why do you return 8 million? 2 million in that account. That one is left for the investigators to explain. So, but I'm just trying to tell you that it's not about whether blockchain or one technology or the other every detail is there for everybody to confirm the successful nature of any transaction or not. And digital payment, to the best of my ability, may have a glitch somewhere along the line, but you know where it is. And every bank today can check the status of any payment. Then you talked about the EFM. I agree with you, but the problem is this. You can't, when you go and see your doctor, the doctor cannot just walk in and share drugs for people. Say, cool, go and solve this, go and solve this. You have to confess to your problem, right, to the doctor, and the doctor will prescribe. The problem we have is that we are too ashamed to even say it. The central bank writes all of us today to state the status of our EFM. Everybody say, yes, it is functional, it is working, we have state of the art, we have this. Okay, CBN did, and everybody confirmed they have it. You understand? But I agree with you 100%. You know this application called Finacle or FlexCube, right? Take that for example. The way Finacle is implemented in one bank is often different from another bank. The way FlexCube is implemented when Access Bank did their FlexCube and the way Intercontinental did FlexCube, the way Diamond Bank did FlexCube implementation, completely different, right? I studied them. But you know what's the difference? The individuals that implement them. There is a bank once called me and said, advise us on the applications to buy. I told them, there is no bad, good application. It is about the individual who is implementing. What do you know? If you go to the static data setup and you're supposed to tick a yes and you tick a no, your system will malfunction. You start blaming the system. So it's the individual. But again, the news fraud desk have the expertise for any bank to reach out or any organization to say, we need training. We provide it free of charge because we're set up to lower costs and to help the ecosystem. So anybody can approach the news fraud desk and we'll provide it. Come to you, help you. And then remember, NIFF has also deployed Hawk. The Hawk is there. Why did you go for Hawk? Hawk was deployed to at least lower the cost because today the country is suffering from FS-related issues. Everybody is buying the same EFM from different people. We are just being stupid. So the Hawk has been centralized in one location, and then the Hawk has the AI capability for learning, but if people don't use it, most of the things that have happened, the Hawk actually picks them. So we need to now use the Hawk to support our business, and then you see all these things change. And Hawk intends to learn with the AI capability, and this thing should go down. But everybody needs to be involved and needs to apply this system in their local organizations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Once again, let's put our hands together for Mr. Premier. Again, I see all the other questions, and I see you brought it here. No, it's not supposed to come to me. I just pass it on to the secretariat, but I'll pass it, this one I'll pass to the secretariat. Collate it. We will deal with them all at the discussion segment. So please, before we move on to the next item, I'm told that there is a photo session here now. And Mr. Premier, please, you will make your way up there. The representative of the DG FSS, the Chair NeFF, the ED NIPS, the Chair and Vice Chair of CeBIH, and the CP. Right? That is what I am told. CP, please do. I'm told that there's the media photo shoot. Then quickly we will continue. That's what they said. What will happen? It's not good almost. You don't keep telling people to go back and forth. Yeah, let's just move it. It's not all of them that are joining. It's only the industry. Yeah, I know. I recognize you. Very quickly, we are moving on. Please let me have this back to the centers. Let me take it back to them. Thank you. If you are just joining us, you have just missed the keynote presentation and Q&As by Mr. Premier on cybercrime trends in Nigeria, predicting the threat landscape for 2030. Now, I think in the spirit of the time management we are applying now, I'm going to invite the next two speakers, and by leave of the chairs, I think what we're going to do is to take the next two presentations, and then we are going to collapse the questions that are attending it quickly thereafter before we break into the panel conversation. So I'm going to be appealing to the next speakers that I will be taxing, which is the buzzword now, out of your initially allotted time to allow us be able to get to intended destination. So the next presentation on decoding social engineering, and observe that it is a consolidation of the foundation that has been laid by Mr. Oyo. So decoding social engineering with AI. Decoding social engineering with AI. Strategies to detect and mitigate fraud in Nigeria. Decoding social engineering with AI, strategies to detect and mitigate fraud in Nigeria. The presenter is Boluwatife Ashimolo, the CEO, Autogon AI. He's been here with us. See, I'm just going, the CEO, Mr. Presenter, please, in the light of the new reality, I appeal that I've taken 10 minutes of your time, and I know you are going to do justice to it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. I'm Boluwatife Ashimolo, the COO of Autogon AI. This is a little bit difficult. Standing on the existing protocols, it's such an honor to be here, to be standing in the presence of you amazing people. This is the first time speaking, so don't mind all of this. It will calm down soon. Mr. Premier already discussed some of what I intended to say, by the way. So I will just jump straight into discussing how artificial intelligence can play a part in social engineering and fraud in general. So I'm going to base my presentation on two core premises, two core ideas. First of all, that we, as an economy, we now live in an augmented economy. So man and computer are working synchronously to ensure that there is consistency with how we mitigate fraud, how we solve our problems generally, and how we even make decisions, right? And my second premise is to discuss how behavioral modeling, like the questioner asked, is the direct answer to how we can mitigate fraud in Nigeria at the moment. So I'll take history back a little bit. From the 1980s, when it was discovered, fraud mitigation started, basically, right? It started with identifying what the problem was in the 1980s, and we saw in the 1990s how they were now following the money to understand where the problems were coming from. Then in the early 2000s, when KYC started, and when they followed the money, they can identify who the money went through or who the money came from. And transaction monitoring started in the last decade. And I'm compelled to say that institutions that are currently leveraging transaction monitoring and rule-based systems to solve fraud in Nigeria are successfully solving the problem of the last decade. So now we are a step ahead with artificial intelligence, and my presentation is just to show us how artificial intelligence is going to play a part in helping us detect and mitigate fraud in real time. So here's a quick fact. $1 trillion in 2024 has been lost to fraud. And that's over 2 times of what the Nigeria GDP is at the moment. And in Nigeria alone, the amounts that have been lost to fraud is basically equal to the national educational budget for 2024. So we can see there is a huge problem. And my question on the next slide is if the problem of $1 trillion globally was lost, about the educational budget was lost to fraud, why is it social engineering we're discussing today? And this is the answer. So I'd like to do a quick stop. Please, everyone, just pick out your phones and scan the barcode. Quickly, just 5 seconds. Pick out your phone, scan the barcode. And if you do, just wave your phone so I know you've scanned the barcode. So now, if you have successfully scanned the barcode, you realize that I put a deck there. And what that implies is, this is how easy it has become to get people to be socially engineered. Now, I bet 40% of these people here could have just lost their details to this attempt. Right? But the next slide. But the major thing is that has nothing to do with your intelligence or the lack of intelligence. I like the way you appropriately put it. Right? It has nothing to do with your intelligence or the lack of intelligence. Social engineering has nothing to do with that. It has all to do with your emotions. As long as you establish trust, like I'm here, you trust me, you don't know me, but you trust me because I'm here speaking to you, and you're scanning the code. But what just happened is I socially engineered you, I compelled you somehow to do that. So this is how easy it has become, and that's why it's a question that we're discussing today. Right? On the next slide, okay, so Mr. Perry have already established all of this, and we can see how the problem is enormous, right? So I won't emphasize on the next slide so much, and I will just move on. Also, a case study in 2020, I'll briefly discuss the case study in 2020, when the COVID struck, and everybody basically relied on digital channels, right? And at that point, where everybody relied on digital channels, it was the most vulnerable. It was the most vulnerable moment for us, right? For every one of us, right? And at that point, that is when fraudsters decided to use new tactics. And I will explain something that is very unusual. So the main issue with social engineering is that you don't know what the person is trying to do. If I attempt the barcode scan again, nobody's going to do that. Basically, nobody will do that, right? So the fact that we are unable to predict what the next tactic is going to be, right, is the major problem we're seeing nowadays. And we are saying that artificial intelligence playing a part in that is supposed to help us outpace all the tactics that these people are going to come up with in real time. And I'll quickly go into how artificial intelligence is doing this nowadays. Move on. So I have a quick quiz. I would like everyone to just engage quickly. They're too slow. Yes. So who can identify the odd fruit here? Just quickly. The odd fruits here. Anyone quickly? All right. So you can see that there are less fruits. There are less seeds in that particular fruit. Yes, that's it. That's it. But now, who can help identify the fraudulent transaction? Please, can we move faster? The media team. So who can help identify the fraudulent transaction in this list of transactions? So I'll give you a year, right? But the interesting thing about this is that all these transactions happened in less than a second, right? And I saw statistics that said 30 million transactions happen daily in Nigeria. That's about, let's say 15 hours, active hours. That's about 2 million transactions per hour. That's 3,000 transactions per minute and 550 transactions per second. So as a fraud manager, you're tasked to find out the fraudulent transaction of 550 per second. So understanding on this same premise of we living in an augmented economy is saying that if you're relying on a fraud team to ensure that they are detecting fraud in real time and they're preventing fraud in real time, it's like staying 3 decades back, right? And I'm basing it on this premise. Please move to the next slide. So what we are looking at as an institution, because I didn't introduce myself properly, at Orthogon AI, we have created an AI infrastructure. So, and I like to think of this as what Intel did in the early years of personal computing, right? And providing the enabling infrastructure to help businesses be more transformative. That's the same thing we do here in Nigeria. And over the years, we've helped businesses automate their processes and predict outcomes. But today, we are focused on helping businesses detect and mitigate fraud in real time. And here is one way we do it. So Customer profiling, as we can see here, we use demographics to determine the customer profiling. And I like that the CBN now emphasizes on KYC. But today, customer profiling is gone a notch higher with what artificial intelligence is doing, right? So beyond your demographics that identifies you as a person, there is a transactional behavior. There's certain transactions that you will do as an individual that can identify that this is you. So for instance, I earn an average of ₦1 million, and I'm doing just about ₦1 million month on month. But in certain months, like the issue that happened that Mr. Premier discussed, ₦1 billion passes through my account. That's an anomaly. And for that particular anomaly, it's a deviation in my own transactional persona. So the way we approach this is, as an institution is, first of all, the first thing that needs to be done is your identity as a customer of a bank will be created based on your demographics and based on your transaction patterns, right? So that persona has been established. Any transaction that deviates from that particular persona will be regarded as an anomaly, and it will be sensed as a threat. I'll show you a framework later on to show you how that would work, right? But we can skip further. So if the anomaly is detected, we can already identify that there is a threshold of threat in that particular transaction. So me, the same case, I do about a million monthly, and one certain month, about $1 billion cross through my account. So they would most likely stop my account. But what if it was just a 3 million that entered my account? It would probably be accepted. But what artificial intelligence, please, media team can move on. So what the artificial intelligence is doing here is, it's going to identify the 3 million as a threat. But based on the individual banks, individual institutions, based on your choices, based on how you choose a fraudulent transaction to be detected, right? I can choose, as an institution, I can choose a threshold of 50%. That means if I get an AI score that's telling me that this is 50% likely a fraudulent transaction, that transaction should be stopped. That transaction to ask for extra layer of KYC. If it's 80%, that should be blocked. The person should visit the bank or whatnot, right? So these are some of the ways, you can skip to the next slide. So these are some of the ways that we as an institution are already identifying this problem and solving it. So this is a description of it. You can see the rule score are the rules we use nowadays, right? However, the AI score is showing you that based on your transaction pattern, there is an 8% chance that this is a fraudulent transaction. Even if it's you. And I'll give you an instance that happened in the US. But please, you can move on to the next slide. So beyond social engineering, what's going on in the fraud ecosystem at the moment? So I would like to pay homage to what all the policymakers here have done so far. We have seen that we are fortified as an economy financially, but maybe not in the best application, right? So the BVN systems are very vital to all of these things that we are discussing today, right? And how we can make it a lot more integral is by adding a layer of artificial intelligence. Please, I'd like the media team to move a little faster. So we can see how some of the policies on the next slide, we can see how advanced detection of fraud is done from a framework perspective, right? This is the combination of all the existing policies, all the existing systems that the financial economy in Nigeria have put together. And we are saying that putting all this together, we can use it to identify a person and ensure that any transaction that deviates from this particular person, any transaction that deviates from the rules, from the regulations, from the CBN, any transaction that deviates from compliance from the bank itself, right, is a false transaction, and that shouldn't pass through. Okay, thanks for this. So, as an institution, this is the framework we use to work. This is the framework we use to detect transactions in real time, and it looks like a lot. So for each transaction that passes through the system, it runs through 3 different engines. First of all, the AI engine, as seen here, the rule engine, which currently exists, and the compliance engine. So after validating these transactions through these 3 different engines, it runs through a typology processor. So that typology processor is supposed to identify all of the fraud vectors and efficate that particular transaction. Then it moves it to an alerting system. So this alerting system now notifies the transaction monitoring officer or takes actions immediately. So it's notifying the transaction monitoring officer to say, okay, this is possibly a fraudulent transaction, but it's not so much that I should take and action myself. That's what the AI is telling the transaction monitoring officer, basically. And the transaction monitoring officer would see it on the case management dashboard where they can choose to act on that particular transaction, right? And we can see if the AI is taking action, if the high-risk transaction, for instance, a transaction with the AI score of about 90%, the AI is supposed to take a prompt action immediately. And each bank can configure how those prompt actions would work, right? So we can see it's prompting an action such as stopping that particular transaction, asking for an extra layer of KYC or whatnot. So on the investigation dashboard, it now represents everything that has happened during the occurrence of the entire transactional process. And we can see the transactional database feeding it. So I rushed this a lot, I'm sure. So the next slide. Now, to conclude on how this can be done, we believe that a truly financial resilient institution, a fraud-resilient financial institution, a true fraud-resilient financial institution is the institution that can understand me more than being a human, that can understand my transactional patterns, such that if there is any fraud case, if I have been exploited as human, because we have identified that social engineering, like what we did today, social engineering is beyond what we can control because it's tapping into our emotions. So a fraud-resilient financial institution will be that institution that regardless of my human weakness, will be able to prevent my funds, will be able to prevent my mother's healthcare bills, will be able to prevent my uncle's pension, right? And with our layer of artificial intelligence, we can already show how that can play into what we already do, all the systems that have been established, into the rule-based systems that we currently use, to learn itself using behavioral modeling and ensure that the augmented economy that we now live in, we are able to take full impact of that. And that's the vision for us at Autogon AI. And we've served a lot of customers, especially outside Nigeria. And here in this room, I'll say the reason why is because it's a lot difficult for Nigerians to adopt these solutions, right? So we understand that the systems are not exactly in place, but we can see why we're having these conversations to ensure that if we're going to create a holistic financial economy that is sustainable and secured, we have to partner with all the stakeholders, all the essential stakeholders that are represented here today and even outside this room, and work together to ensure that if we have innovative technologies adoptable, right? Because we have customers outside of Nigeria, we have customers in Canada, but Nigerian customers are even moving a lot slower, right? So this is my own belief. I believe that if we can integrate artificial intelligence core into understanding behavioral patterns from each of our customers, we're able to create a financial resilient ecosystem for us. Thank you very much. My name is Boluwatifẹ Ashimolowo.
Can we appreciate him one more time? Well, I'm going to thank you not just for being in the front line of the army of the fight against electronic fraud, but also for helping my management of the event flow. You were spot on. Thank you very much. Decoding social engineering with AI, strategies to detect and mitigate fraud in Nigeria is the topic he has just spoken to. Please, like we said in the first one, I'll also ask, I know there are questions on AI related, just generate them. Call the usher nearest to you, put them together. The Secretariat is aggregating all of it for our panelists to also delve into. In the same pattern, I would like to quickly invite for the presentation on cyber awareness and education, the first line of defense against financial crimes in Nigeria. Cyber awareness and education, the first line of defense against financial crimes in Nigeria. That means that what NeFF has done and is doing by creating this awareness sharing platform is a step in the right direction, I would believe. But that is not for me to take. I'd like to invite Rotimi Oguyemi, partner BOC Legal, to validate or dispute if what NeFF is doing is the right thing. I'll also just appeal that we follow in the line established and do it. Thank you very much, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. Indeed, it's been a fantastic morning right into the afternoon, and I must say a big thank you for the honor to speak to us this morning. Once again, my name is Rotimi Ogoyemi. I'm a lawyer, and in case you heard that and you thought, oh, to talk technology, well, perhaps, but let me say that the first two speakers have been extremely erudite, and it gives me a pause. But so while I was coming, I thought perhaps I would just say stories. I have my slides, but in keeping with the culture of the time as well, I will perhaps not tag along the slides, but maybe just say the stories. So like most of us are aware, imagine your young friend, or maybe some young entrepreneur that you are aware of, who excitedly just launched his or her online store. Recently, shared the news on social media, all excited. And this friend, or this acquaintance, or this person you know, one of these days received a WhatsApp message which seemed to have come from her bank. And just like we have heard in the early presentations, the tone is urgent, the branding is perfect, and the request is kind of simple. Verify your identity, because your account is about to be closed and you need to move fast. And in a moment of stress, we are all stressed, right? She complies, and just like that, her fledgling business suffers a serious financial blow. Now, this is a story that we all know too well. And while the first topic looked into 2030 to build some kind of future, it looked like the story I shared has been happening many years back, and it's just intensified. But perhaps that person I just kind of run through the horror story is your customer. Maybe we should look at you in the room. A bank executive working on this island, highly accomplished, managing sophisticated financial instruments, accustomed to cyber protocols, and you believe you are savvy. In fact, too savvy to fall for social engineering tricks. But in this case, a spear phishing, not campaign, targeted attack is launched on you. It's not a random generalized email. Instead, it's a personalized, again drawing from Mr. Ashimolowo's presentation, AI-crafted message that arrives directly in your inbox. The subject line of that email references a high-level strategy meeting you had 2 days ago, by name and by date. Perhaps information gleaned from an insider, we heard a bit about that, or maybe it was gleaned from your LinkedIn profile because you were so excited and you shared. The tone is respectful, and it appears to come from a vendor of perhaps a senior manager from that vendor discussing a crucial invoice that needs to be processed. Now, every detail in that email matches your bank's or your organization's usual process, the formatting, everything is spot on. So you, the executive, you are busy, you're facing eternal deadlines, You scan the message quickly, nothing odd jumps out at you. In fact, everything checks out, quote and unquote. Hurriedly, you forward it to your finance department for approval. The attackers have done their homework. They've used AI patterns to analyze you. They've analyzed the company's communication style. They know exactly what to write. And fraud occurs. Now, those two scenarios, your customer or yourself, happens every day. What I came here to say is that our first line of defense, again, as we've heard in the course of the presentations this morning, is perhaps not a technology firewall or a complex encryption protocol. The first line of defense is human understanding and cyber awareness. But when I say human understanding and cyber awareness, I do not mean what we knew in the year 2000. This is 2024. 2 days ago, Google announced Willow. Willow is the first move towards quantum computing. Now, for all of us in this room, what Willow will do is that all of our encryption standards today, it will make nonsense of it. Absolute nonsense. That is the future we are talking about. Not in 2030, but right now, 2024. So, I could have spent the next few minutes talking about all the awareness campaigns, what we should do in schools, and what the NGOs should do, what the churches should do, what the banks should do. But I won't do that because we already know that. I'm going to piggyback on what Mr. Shimolo spoke about. The same tool that these attackers have used and are using to weaponize this ecosystem, AI, I think, is one of the most ready tools we can use for education and awareness. And I'll tell us how. Let's consider a farmer in, say, the Middle Belt, somewhere in TIV land. I mean TIV. Maybe this farmer somehow has gotten a hang of how to use a regular phone, perhaps a smartphone. And the rural farmer has gained some confidence using the mobile phone to check product prices and transfer small payments. One day he receives a WhatsApp message from in Pidgin, right? And it's voice from a proposed dealer who he has worked with before, or who he thinks he has worked with before. And the proposed dealer is asking for a down payment for a transaction. It looks legitimate. The scammer uses details gleaned from the farmer's past online transactions. Now, the farmer hesitates, he's not sure. Then a voice note that sounds exactly like the dealer from the same WhatsApp is heard, thanks to deep fake technology. AI again, where synthetic voice and data can impersonate real human beings. This is not 2030 happening today. The farmer hears the voice, now he's very sure. On the back end, the attacker is using AI-generated spear phishing techniques. Now, your guess is as good as mine. The farmer falls victim. Or perhaps it's my grandmother in Oshogbo who is starting to receive some small money from us, the children, and maybe a little bit more from my siblings abroad, perhaps. And grandma gets a message that sounds exactly like one of my sisters. And you wonder, why did I say grammar? Well, I said grammar because we thought grammar was the most vulnerable. But it's really you and I. The voice sounds exactly like your husband, sounds exactly like your customer. And you get the instructions, you transfer the funds, you are scammed. What do? Back to my talk. AI. Now, for all of us executives in the room, I came to say this very clearly. Well done on all of the awareness campaigns you're doing. I see your emails, I see your text messages, and indeed they are very helpful. They tell me not to click on shady links, they tell me so many things, and somehow I try to keep up. But I'm worried for that farmer in the Middle Belt. Or again, my grandma in Oshobo, she doesn't understand all of that. Enter AI. What if, and again, I'm talking about technology that is available today. What if on your platform, your interaction with grandma is in Yoruba? What if your interaction asks grandma a simple question, and from her response, the system can detect her level of familiarity with technology? What if the platform prompts her in local language how to recognize a scam? What to do if she receives a message? What if the same applies to the farmer in Sokoto? Everything Mr. Shimolowo said is available for you to use today. The same AI chatbot that responds to your questions, Gemini, ChatGPT, the technology behind them can translate all of your campaigns into local languages, into pidgin. The technology behind these platforms can make awareness campaigns very relatable, context-enabled, and be sure that the technology behind these platforms can make the work of education and awareness easy. So you ask, is it just the rural folks? No. It's even the schools. It's the primary schools. It's the curriculum. It's the secondary schools. It's the vocational centers. What I'm saying in a nutshell is this. We have the tools in our hands to make this work. Now, there's a whole lot to say, but let me land this. And I say this to the policymakers because I would be remiss as a lawyer if I don't say this. The current policy and regulatory framework has gaps. Great that we have the Cybercrime Act. It has defined many of the crimes, but I say that even though there was an amendment that took effect early this year, most of the definitions are from 1980, not 2024. First of all, that act is not ready for the AI world, powered world that we live in today. That's one. Two, that act should be a standalone cybercrime act because it focuses on criminalizing conduct, not so much on cybersecurity. I propose that Nigeria needs cybersecurity legislation that will incentivize a resilient culture, that will ensure that cybersecurity not just becomes an afterthought, but it is embedded into our processes by design. It will reward organizations that put cybersecurity as front and center, perhaps through tax breaks. There's a lot to be done. I believe from everything I've heard from Mr. Premier and what the CBN is doing, a lot is happening, but a whole lot more needs to be done. I wish I could say more, but I really need to land this now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Please let's appreciate him one more time. In those things he said, especially the last part of it, proposing or drawing the attention of stakeholders to the need for a review of existing legislation on cybercrimes to become more in tune with extant realities. I'd like to thank you, Mr. Rotimi, my partner, BOC Legal. Cyber awareness and education, the first line of defense against financial crimes in Nigeria. It's what he has just enriched us with his perspective. We're going to move very swiftly and now to the panel conversations. I am also going to, I'm sure you do have some questions for the learned gentleman. The ushers are here to serve. Just put it on to them. Secretariat is there about aggregating it, so it would also be passed on to the panel. We want to thank all our keynote speakers, Mr. Premier Oyo, Boluwatife Ashi Molowo, and Rotimi Ogunyemi, who has just spoken now. At this point, I'd like to welcome the members of the conversation up here, the panel, the moderator or chair, Mr. Is it? Yeah. The chair, Mr. Festus Amede, is Chairman Committee of Chief Information Security Officers of Nigerian Financial Institutions. Mr. Amede, please could you make your way up there? Thank you very much. Please let's but it's, yeah. So the moderator of this session is Dr. Isaiah Ademola Adeleke. Please let's put our hands together in a resounding way for the moderator. Please, Mr. Moderator, please do make your way up there. We'll take this away there. Mr. Moderator, I'm sure you are well seized of the other members of the team, but so we do have joining them Mr. Tosin Obadimu, who is the acting head industry fraud desk at the Nigeria Interbank Settlement System. I thought you would get a lot of, because I had the MD NeFF speak about free training. And I'm sure these are the guys who will be offering that. CP Ayotunde Godwin Omodeinde, CP's Police Special Fraud Unit. Please let's welcome the gentleman police officer. Kazim Tewobade, CEO Blue Chip Technologies. Simon Aderinola, Program Director, Reporter Insights. Yes, sir, they're either here. So, gentlemen, participating gentlemen and ladies, this is it, a stellar cast of eggheads who are going to do justice to this conversation at this point in this session. Mr. Moderator, sir, over to you. No one directs the moderator. I will only advise that the moderator is guided by the time. Thank you very much.
So our hands together for the anchorman. All right. So the train is moving. My name is Dr. Adeleke, and we are moving to another phase now, and it's still in tandem with what we've been talking about since morning. So we are going to be talking to this set of panelists that are carefully selected on the theme that says building resilience and collaboration in cybersecurity and financial institutions. So they have been introduced, and I want to set some quick rules for our panelists. I will be asking each of us 2 questions, per head, and after that, we are going to leave a room for questions from the audience, and the response to each of the questions should be like 2 minutes, please, just to save time. The first panelist, the Chairman Committee of CISO of Nigerian Financial Institutions. Hope you are ready, sir. So the first question I would like to ask you is that what are the most critical cybersecurity threats facing Nigerian financial institutions today?
All right. Thank you for that question, and good afternoon, everyone. Standing on the existing protocol, today cybersecurity has been a major concern, and the critical threats we have seen. All right. I think it's clearer now. Okay. So like as I was saying, today we are seeing a lot of cyber attacks in the industry. And it's a major concern. The critical ones, some of them have been spoken into because when we came here, we've had a lot of phishing, and phishing is a major concern. And we have seen it in different forms. We have also seen pushing coming up strongly, whereby QR codes are being swapped. You go to a supermarket, and before you know it, you are scanning the wrong QR code. But speaking to phishing, which is the most common, we see situations whereby email is sent to unsuspecting customers, and at the end of the day, if you don't take cognizance of the email addresses, you will click those links, and you will be submitting your financial details. Because of time, I will go to the next one, which has to do with sorry. Apart from phishing and phishing, we have seen situations where cyber criminals also try to deceive people by also telling them to click some links by submitting their information. Then we have also seen situations where DDoS attack is also a major concern, talking about denial of service. So if I cannot steal information from any organization, I can also prevent the organization from. Am I okay? Yeah. Okay. So DDoS attack is also a major concern. Then another threat that we have seen that is very, very prevalent today has to do with insider threats. A situation whereby, I think Premier also spoke to that, to say that we hire someone to work for us. And at the end of the day, the staff we have hired now become our major enemy. So that being, because every human being has a price, so individual staff of an organization can be tricked to also compromise the organization's network. I think those are the major critical cyber attack. That is the one that prepped on human being. Then speaking also to ransomware and malwares, whereby whereby staff of organization or individuals are targeted. A situation whereby a ransomware is sent to an organization, and by the time you click those links, your entire file of your server or desktop can be quarantined, and until you pay a ransom, that system will not be released. Apart from ransomware, you also see a situation whereby malwares are being downloaded to devices and systems. Oftentimes people say, my details were compromised. It would have given, malware would have been responsible for such, because when you click on such links, you discover that you download a malware, and everything you are doing on your system, the malware will be reporting back to a destination server that is the callback home. And all the activities you have will now be exposed to the cyber criminals. And with those details, they can attack you. Thank you.
Okay. We've identified a number of threats, and I will move on to Mr. Tosin Obadimu, the acting head industry fraud desk in NeFF. Mr. Obadimu, we have a phrase flying around today, and that is about collaboration. We want to entrench cybersecurity awareness among the consumers and all stakeholders. So I want you to speak to how best we can go about this. In your opinion, how can financial institutions collaborate with other stakeholders to entrench cybersecurity awareness among all the parties involved in financial transactions?
Yeah, thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, my MD. Good morning, CBN. Okay, so you just talked to how collaboration should work. Maybe I should define what resilience is, right? Resilience is, just imagine a fortress that has gone through a lot, right? And is still standing tall. And one good thing about a fortress that has gone through the storm, what resilience will show in that instance will be how have you learned from whatever attack you have received. I've said it in the past when it comes to fraud desk and all that. And I say to us, I say, okay, just imagine that we are a community, right? And each one has a watchtower in your different communities. For each, those watchtower, don't forget, like somebody was trying to describe, it's like describing somebody standing on the corridor and somebody, people on the dance floor. Wherefore, you can actually see from the corridor, you can see more than somebody on the dance floor. And the same thing happens to that kind of watchtower. You are watching from your side. Don't forget, it's a community of round circle, right? You are watching from your different silos, but just imagine that we have a point where everybody meets, and what has hit you is known. You've told us how you are able to attack it. What are these the next person? You've told us as well. That's the way it should be. Now, how do you collaborate? The best way to collaborate is to everybody working together. Like my MD rightly said, you can't be a fraud desk. Yes, I'm trying to cover my own end to ensure that things are working. What happens to the ones that goes to the other people, right? Now, for you to collaborate, we need everybody to be on the same page, right? We have a fraud management system that sits in NeFF. It's called HAWK. Now, we have a lot of banks using it. However, we still have a lot more that are not using it. Now, I've seen instances where we are in a meeting or fraud desk and we say, we show, for example, a particular bank, a particular financial institution had a fraud. And lo and behold, I called the head of fraud desk and I showed him on the dashboard to see all these things went to you. What exactly did you do about it? He said, oh, he went somewhere because a fraud has happened before that time and all that. Now, what we are saying is that for us to collaborate, we need everybody on deck. What am I saying? Not only financial institutions, we have the telcos, we have the... You can't take away the telcos from the equation. That's the simple truth, because everything that we do right now revolves around this guy, the mobile, right? So everything, your email address, one point of failure, your email address, your SMS, when they are making calls, it's this same mobile. So you can't take away the telco out of it. So a collaboration will be having everybody on deck, including the law enforcement agency. Thank you.
Obadimu. I moved to the Commissioner of Police in our midst. I'm talking about CP Ayotunde Omodende. Sir, you, by virtue of where you sit, you have seen it all. Different cyber attack methodologies and in different shapes and sizes. What will you be telling us today from all you have seen over the years on how best to still collaborate, still on collaboration with what you sit? Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Standing on existing protocol. From experience, I think there is need for all the stakeholders to work together, because what I often see is that each of the banks work in isolation, thinking, oh, it is concerning Bank A, it does not concern me. But the system that works on Bank A will surely work on you. So if you do not join Bank A in fighting the bad guys, you are the next. And even while they are working on Bank A, action has been programmed against you. It's just that it has not been activated. So while you are thinking, no, it's all about Bank A that is being attacked, the system is vulnerable, and that's why they have been attacked. And you just don't want to cooperate, because oftentimes when we have issues, and in fraud investigation, time is of the essence. You are able to trace fund to an account, and you want the account to be PND. Before you know it, the bank released the fund, and the fund is moved because they felt it does not concern them. And you see, in-house people joining these kidnappers. Each time there is a case, you have issues with even the bank officials. And at times when we have issues with banks, present 1, 2, 3, 4 of your staffs for questioning. They tend to shield them. And while you are shielding these in-house people, and before you know it, they will now become the ones that the attackers will use against your system. So one of the things we need to do more is for all the stakeholders to work together. Once there is an issue, everyone should come together to get it resolved. And number two, Mr. Ashimolo has talked about AI and using AI in the system. But there is something about the top managers, those who release funds. They see technology because oftentimes it's not something you can touch. It's not visible. So when the IT people bring bills for upgrading, buying license, they don't see the need until when something happens. They feel, I remember in those days when I was in First Headquarters as the head of ICT, we will request for fund for license. We request for fund for bandwidth. One of my DIGs told me, Ayo, I can see computer, but go and show me the bandwidth before I can release the fund. So there is need for the stakeholders to work together. There is need also to conduct more and more training. These guys train themselves better than most of us. They train like the presenter earlier said, they undergo regular training. They are far ahead of us. We are working at arithmetic level, and they are working on multiplication level. They are moving faster. They are far ahead. And because one, the system oftentimes is slow in reacting. So we always react when the incident has happened. And when you react when incident happens, you now start working behind the clock. So it's better let's be, even if we cannot match them, let's be at least close to them. So there is need for us more training, more collaboration, and timely response. And our laws are so weak because it takes a long time to change our laws. Oftentimes because those in National Assembly don't understand the need for speed. like Cybercrime 2015, Cybercrime 2024 just addressed part of the 2015 issues. It's not that it was a total change. So the lawmakers are slow in responding. In 2024, we're talking about AI and other stuff, but our cybercrime are not addressing those issues. So our cybercrime is far behind. It's still 2018 issues that the cybercrime in 2024 is still addressing. So there is need to also have regular training with our lawmakers. Whenever the lawmakers are having retreat, there will be need for some of us, the stakeholder, to be part of those who will be resource person that will bring this lawmaker abreast with current issues. So when the issues come up for changes of laws, they are already aware during the induction. So by the time there is need to change the laws, they will be fast about it. But if we don't give them this training during their induction, they need to learn, and they will rely on some of their assistants who even are far behind in the training. So there is need for us training and collaboration. Thank you very much.
Okay. At the end of the day, we are going to do the summary just to save time. I move to the next panelist, by name Kasim Tewogbade, the CEO of Blue Chip Technologies. Mr. Kasim, we have been on this business of cybersecurity for some time. By virtue of your background, can you tell us what you consider as the best practice that you may want the financial institutions to adopt to safeguard data in the face of evolving threats? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. Good afternoon, everyone. First and foremost, it's important for organizations to have a very strong cybersecurity risk management framework. It's so critical. And I think in that framework are all the elements that the organizations would need maybe to proactively prevent threats, to prevent vulnerabilities, crystallizing into losing money or different breaches, and then things around learning, staff awareness and education. All these things are quite important to be fleshed out in the framework. And the framework must not be something that was going to be lying down there. It needs constant revision. It should happen, all of the time. The CP has already said that these hackers or these, bad people out there, they are working night and day. So we also need to compete with them in forging ahead. I also think that this from experience. I also think that the power or the value that the framework would give will also be borrowed from the corporate governance of that entity. Because I can see, when I hear news of breaches, news of, hackings or, money being lost in the financial institutions, they often target organizations who I think, I may be wrong, that don't have very strong corporate governance, practices. I know it's relative, it's quite a hefty thing to say, but I think people should also look at that because it's also very, 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 very important. So apart from the framework, things like, ensuring you have multi-factor authentication is no longer two-factor authentication. There should be several ways by which, users should gain access. There should be contextual access control. If you are in a certain region, you may not be able to have access to your system because I can see that you are not in Nigeria, you are maybe in Singapore, you are trying to log in. I think the defense layer, even into your system, is your network. All right. So adequate provisions should be made to to install firewall, all those gaps
sure that we can detect, act, proactively, threats. Well, we are in the age of AI. There are a lot of things that AI, that we can leverage on AI in terms of creating robots, people, creating, systems that, 24/7 are monitoring the system, and they're ensuring that any likelihood of threats are reported. Now, these days, you have to be real time. If you don't prevent, then you have to be real time to respond to these threats. I think at close for me, in this round, I will also say that many organizations should imbibe, risk management or cyber risk management should look at it from a strategic point of view. Because there are a lot of tools, there are a lot of solutions that banks have implemented, but they don't work. Now, maybe there are issues with change management, maybe there are issues with, user education, or maybe even the processes, because some of these things are not, appearing in isolation. Their outputs should go into another system, and like that there's a value chain. So the reasons why they are not really working, I don't know, all right? But, I'm sure the practitioners, people that are in the banks, they probably know much more than I do. But it is frightening to note that, millions of dollars are being spent, yearly, and we are not getting commercial value from the spend that, organizations are making.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, I move to the last panelist for this round, and that is Mr. Simon Aderinlola. So, Mr. Simon, we've been talking about collaboration. The question I want to ask is, are we doing enough? If the answer is no, what are the impediments? And how can we be out of this? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are we doing enough? Yes, the answer is no. We are not doing enough. Some effort is noted, yes. But here we are not backpatting anybody. We are simply saying, if what I'm fighting against is growing geometrically, then I'm wasting my time if I'm growing arithmetically. Very simple. So the progress we are making, yeah, we are trying. But the threat that is looking us in the face is not joking. And it's for that reason I feel we're not doing enough. What is impeding us? Okay, I'll say two things among several others. I'd like to speak to paranoia and a misunderstanding of what competition is. Paranoia, essentially, that's fear. And generally, I see us fearing a lot of things. I think one of the panelists, one of the presenters earlier talked about we are slow to uptake things that will benefit us in this country. That is true. Even if we're looking it in the face and it's going to help us. I think in physics, they call that inertia. So that is our problem. But the other one that I find very interesting is a misunderstanding of what competition is. If somebody says, I have a problem with the service your bank has given me, and I'm moving to another bank, then work to retain the customer. That is your job. But if somebody says, I have a problem with the banking system in Nigeria, that is trust erosion for everybody. And so we should understand anything that will affect everybody should also concern us. It's not just I'm working for my pay, I'm ticking the boxes for my boss. So there is a misunderstanding of what competition really should be. I would like to use the example of Ford, Ferrari. So you have a Ford, I have a Ferrari. You say yours is faster, I say mine is faster. But the road in front of us is not graded, it's not tarred. How can we know who is better? If both of us don't cooperate to build that road, we cannot compete. If it is still full of potholes, then there's nothing that will happen. You hold your view, I will hold my view. So those are part of the challenges I've seen. I think, and I'd like to come back to the topic of the conversation today as regards social engineering. I found that very interesting. And when I saw the topic, I asked a few friends.
Okay,
what is social...
that becomes your second question.
Oh, okay,
then
fine.
You have 1 minute for that.
Okay, fine.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, you want me to fly? Oh, great. Thank you. So Social engineering. If I read electrical engineering or mechanical engineering, I'm an engineer, but with a particular tilt. If I am called a social engineer, then I'm a digital thief. It's a shame if somebody is given that toga of being a social engineer. In my own definition, a social engineer, in the simplest way I can describe to a 5-year-old, is I get information about you, mostly from you, which I use to steal from you. Mostly, because sometimes I could get the information through other sources. But most times, we get the information with which we rob a person from that person due to carelessness. And that basically means all of us have work to do. I'll stop at this point.
All right, so we are taking the last round now. After that, please get your questions ready. Mr. Kasim Tewogbade, let me come back to you. What should we do differently? 1 minute.
Okay, thank you so much. I think since we are in the age of AI, it's important that we invest in AI technologies that will help us fight these crimes. One very popular machine learning model that is used in the market is a category is called anomaly detection. Basically, we are trying to find out if there are some behaviors that depart from the norm. And so within this family of machine learning models, you've got different systems. You've got isolation forest, you've got K-means, you've got different types of algorithms. And then if we know how this model works, what they do basically is that they learn over time. And if a bank is only learning on its own data, then it means that it's quite restricted. And I think that is a call for collaboration, for data sharing in the industry. All right. There are going to be different data sets that will come from First Bank. There will be the new data set come from UBA, Access Bank. And if you can pull everything together, look at the scenarios, your models that you are going to build will be more like industry-wide, and to be able to take care of different scenarios. But if you try and build in isolations and things like that, then you probably will be falling short of an industry-wide solution.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, I move to our Commissioner of Police. You have shared a lot of insightful, ideas and established some facts. So the last thing I want to ask you that we would like to get a response to in 1 minute is that how can law enforcement work more closely with financial institutions to prevent cyber fraud?
How can law enforcement, you see, look, oftentimes when there is need for us to work together, at times it looks as if we're working at crossroads with one another. Oftentimes there is this suspicion on the part of both the law enforcement and the banks. Each time there are issues and you want response, you don't get it. So we want to suggest that there is need for more collaboration between the law enforcement agency and the stakeholders through regular meetings, and when KYC officers are meeting, law enforcement officers should be invited to be part of the meeting and also to contribute and also share some of the experiences and problems faced on daily basis in course of investigation, so that from the bankers' angle, they tell us the problem they are having with us, we will share the problem we are having with them. So with that, it will be easy for us to know the problem from this end, and out we will now find a solution among ourselves. And I just want to chip in this issue of profiling both customers and staff should be taken seriously. I give you an example. A Lebanese who want to launder fund use his driver, cleaner, gardeners, and all his support staff accounts to launder millions of naira. Before this act, this account don't receive more than this. The highest fund that account will ever receive is 70,000 naira, which is the salary of the driver. And all of a sudden, you start seeing 120 million, 50 million in an account that never received more than 70,000 naira. That should be a red flag. You don't need any other thing. The bank is the system itself should place a red flag on that account and should not allow that account to continue to fly. But you see this account moving, and until the laundering will have gone into billions before issues will be raised. Now let's take the issue of staff profiling. You engage a staff. While he was with you, he does not even have a car. All of a sudden, after 6 months working in the bank, he started wearing custom clothes, started putting on expensive shoes, expensive wristwatches. He started driving different cars, moved from, he was living in Songo, to all of a sudden he moved to Banana Island. And you say, oh, this guy is doing well. No, he's doing something. So there is need for us to look at both the staff and customers and profile the two effectively. Thank you very much.
Thank you, CP. Okay, I move to Mr. Atosin Obadimu. Your last word to the audience.
Okay, so this is what I think we must all do. We need to create awareness together. I also want to thank the chairman of CB. We fought earlier, but we became friends. You know, this is one of the things is actually pushing. What happens if we have an awareness that sits everywhere? Wherefore, is not this bank, Wema Bank, this one, GTB, blah, 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 and all that. What happens if this awareness drive is done collaboratively? Wherefore, we know it's expensive to send those text messages. Like somebody was saying about most of the people using phones and all that. The people in the rural areas, most of them are using feature phones, right? And sometimes they don't have access to these things. Now, we know how expensive it is to send SMS per phones, right? Just imagine that we have a pool of funds where those SMSs, like the lawyer was saying, are written in Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa, and sent to these guys in the rural areas. Maybe they would just read it. Maybe they would be educated. You know, those are the things that I want us to do as an industry.
Thank you.
And also, sorry, this final one is about regulation. It's important for us to continue to make it mandatory for all the frameworks that we have to be enforced. Because if you don't do that, the mess we're in right now, we're not going to go out of it very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Obadimu. Okay, Mr. Festus, your last word for this audience.
All right, thank you. I would like to speak to ability for an organization to actually build capabilities. There is need to build capability to be able to identify and to detect, prevent, monitor, and evaluate any cybersecurity incident. Because if you don't have those capabilities, you will not be able to stay resilient. Then speaking to collaboration, I think we need to do more. There is need for a kind of MOU between the stakeholders, a situation whereby the people that are managing fraud, the cybersecurity team, the law enforcement agency, and also the telcos. There is need for us to have a kind of memorandum of understanding or a framework in which fraud has to be tackled. Then the last thing from me is we should report. Because oftentimes, even when we talk about AI, without data, AI is useless. You will get wrong output. So there is need for us to feedback. Even when you have a AI fraud management tool, without adequate data of what has happened before, you will not be able to combat or predict using AI. You won't be able to predict what will happen next. Thank you.
Thank you. Please, let's give all of them a round of applause. Thank you very much. That's a good one. Please put your questions together. We've heard from the panelists, ranging from the encouragement to all of us here seated that we should stop shielding our staff members when the law enforcement agents need to interrogate them, to stakeholders doing more, to training. We've learned that we have to review our laws and regulations. We should do more in terms of enforcement, adoption of AI, and we should have a new definition to competition, that competition should not tear us apart. Rather, we should see that there is an elephant in the house that all of us have to deal with and ensure that these cyber crimes, are brought to the lowest ebb possible. On that note, I want to appreciate the anchorman and open the floor for questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. I think we need to appreciate the panel. But even more so the moderator, because he has been very effective. Mr. Moderator, we do have a pool of questions here. Now, it's not possible to attend to all of them, but every question here, it's a feedback. And I'm sure the NeFF Secretariat is going to distill and forward it. I'm going to be speaking to some of it, and I'll ask the moderator, in his wisdom, just to ask the panelists, or just speak like 3-4 of them. I'm told the intention is that the vote of thanks, which is the last item, maximum should be by 2:30 here. But you started on the note of what the CP say. And there was a comment here that spoke to that and says, the problem is that once people are invited to come to the police station, you treat them as suspects already. And that is why they are reluctant, perhaps, to come. So, feedback. But then somebody also said here that, what is it about calling it social engineering? Isn't that just a diplomatic? Why do you not just use another phrase that removes the anomaly? Call them thieves or whatever it is, so that nobody is able to hide under these guys. Big data, as well as the pocket of data different perform clients. Somebody said, does the AI solution have a device fingerprinting functionally? Like I said, this is all what the Secretariat is going to do. Okay, why do law enforcement agencies treat the staff as suspects? Are the compliance officers aware that some bank account officers do inform their customers to withdraw their funds before posting PNB, court order on their account? Feedback. This is all, and this is from a policeman. It says, oh, you mentioned failure to stigmatize fraud, recalcitrant attitude of the industry. What does it take to watch lists, requirements to watch lists? What are the following, Mr. Premier, submission? Thank you for that. My question is, why is the burden of KYC and address verification on the banks and financial institutions? I will think that the NIMC and other government agencies will be responsible for profiling and updating, providing those information. Basically, what is the capability of the AI detection considering the number of transactions occurring in Nigeria? And what's your view about having AI simulation labs and hackathons to multiply this technology? Why has NIPS debited a bank for a fraud or compromise that led to fraud in another bank? My bank was a victim of this debit early this month or late last month. What is NIPS doing about identity harmonization, BVN and NIN harmonization for individual authentication? I believe it's time for CBN deal with the KYC policy in a different way. We should start implementing multi-layer KYC for bank account types. Come on, I think this is there. So, AI fraud, how do you deal with the privacy issues related to data collection, processing, and storage? Can NIPS immigration collaborate so that when the BVN is watchlisted, it suspends the person's international passport, and that will help in tracking fraudsters that may want to japa? So, like I said, a lot of this is feedback. And but Mr. Moderator, in your wisdom, if there is anyone that particularly strikes you, you could ask that it's be spoken to. But I want to assure all the questionnaires, all of it is going to be collated. All NeFF, it's going to look at it, it's going to distill, and every information you have passed across is esteemed and valuable. Thank you very much. Moderator, over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. As we've heard, when those things were read out, they are largely feedbacks, but specifically, if there is any question that you feel you still deserve an answer to, that in your opinion is not in form of a feedback, please feel free. If it has to do with the CBN, write to us, because we are all stakeholders here, and we will gladly respond to you. And on that note, I want to appreciate all the panelists for a job well done, and say thank you. Hope to see you again.
I'd like to thank you very much. Find out, like we always do, where's the photographer? We'd like the panelists to be up there, and the chair of NeFF and chair CeBIH, please do join them. Let's have the panel photo session. Thank you very much. The presenters, please do have join session. Please, but thank you. Just join that session. Please, thank you very much. Chair CeBIH, you're supposed to be in this photo. Yeah. It's for the, so you are thanking the, you should invite somebody else. Hey, yeah. Right after that, we will be having the communique presentation. We're moving very swiftly. We are moving faster than the fraudsters now. This is send a message to them that we're coming after them. And we have a CP in our midst. It is the Q4, and what a way to wrap it all up for the year. Very, very apt team, very quality conversation. But like I always say, that it doesn't end here. Each one, teach one. Take the message learned from here, and let's go implement the lessons learned, and let's go give a fight to those bad guys and tell them we're taking back our industry. Thank you all very much. Let's put our hands together one more time for this splendid panel and moderator. So I'm going to, without wasting time, let's have the community presentation. Bro, yeah, it's ready, yes. You know, we have, please come up. It's been sent to you. Very well. I'm now, thank God. Let me now invite Oluremi Tinu Gabriel for, I saw everybody turned and looked around for the vote of, for the community presentation. We'll come to the vote of thanks. All right, so let's have that.
All right. Thank you very much. As we approach the end of today's session, all right, let's settle down, please. This probably one of the most important parts of today's session as we gradually round off. All right, so the communique. So let me first of all thank NeFF for trusting CeBIH to put this together, to partner, and that's the collaboration we are talking about. And to also thank every member bank for the support, and in putting this together, the cooperation was fantastic. All right, so my name is Oluremi Tinu Gabriel. The communique issued at the conclusion of the Q4 2024 general meeting themed social engineering, financial fraud, and cybersecurity in Nigeria, held at the Bankers House, Victoria Island, Lagos. The Q4 2024 general meeting of NeFF themed social engineering, financial fraud, and cybersecurity in Nigeria brought together key stakeholders to discuss the evolving threat of financial fraud and the measures needed to enhance cyber security in Nigeria financial ecosystem. Key discussion evolved around emerging fraud patterns, the challenges such as digital illiteracy, outdated technology, and inadequate incident reporting, and the need for collaborative effort across the financial sector to combat this threat. Like I said at the last session of Intermark, going forward, collaboration has to be our new competition. Presentation emphasized the role of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and innovative payment solution in strengthening fraud detection and prevention mechanism. The meeting concluded with actionable recommendations, which include the following. 1, the need to enhance minimum skill levels for cyber security roles, such as the CISO, anti-fraud team, compliance, and every other person that lead the desk for fraud detection and prevention. Secondly, financial institutions must implement enterprise fraud management system as a mandatory measure to detect and mitigate fraud. Number 3, there should be a holistic collaboration between financial institutions, law enforcement agents, and investigative agencies to enhance cybersecurity defenses. One of the things that still bother me is why I, as a financial institution, I need a court order to arrest a criminal. A thief that has been caught, but to go and arrest him, I still need to go and get a court order. Before I get court order, the guy has japa. Number 4, partnership with regulative bodies such as SEC is essential for monitoring virtual assets, virtual asset services providers, and ensuring regulatory compliance. Number 5, customer behavior analytics should be prioritized to identify and prevent fraud, while transaction limit profiling and stringent KYC, know your customer measures, must be enforced. Number 6, cybersecurity awareness campaign should be conducted widely using local languages to reach diverse audience, and cybersecurity education must be integrated into school curricula to instill secure practices from an early age. Next, current agency banking operations require stricter transaction controls to minimize vulnerabilities, and comprehensive legislation is necessary to position cybersecurity as a critical aspect of national security. The final point here is participants acknowledge that a fraud-resilient financial institution must leverage advanced technology and robust frameworks to protect customers and maintain trust in the Nigeria financial system. In conclusion, the meeting reinforced the collective responsibility of financial institutions, regulators, law enforcement agents, and other stakeholders in building a resilient financial system. So I'm presenting this as the chairman of the organizing committee for this session, Q4 NeFF session, and thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. The one whose name can cause confusion. Thank you, Mr. Olu Gabriel. And now, distinguished invited guest participants, you'll all agree that the Nigeria Electronic Fraud Forum 4th quarter meeting here with the theme Social Engineering, Financial Fraud, and Cybersecurity in Nigeria has been yet again another very impactful assembly. It's one thing to convene, but it is another thing to convene for impact. I dare say, every NeFF forum, and this is no exception, it's a convention for impact. And I would like us to please acknowledge all that have worked hard together in ensuring that this is a success. Please let's put our hands together one more time. Because what has happened here is that by gathering here today and sharing the knowledge we have done, we have moved geometrically in the fight against electronic fraud within the Nigerian financial ecosystem. It could have been worse if we do not. And that means that what is good should be sustained. We offer our hearts for NeFF, we offer our hearts for CeBIH, and it is on that note, I'd like to invite for the vote of thanks the Chairman, CeBIH, and Chief Partnership Officer, Wema Bank PLC. Please, let's put our hands together resoundingly for Chair Ajibade Laolu Adewale. Mr. Chair, you must be very, very proud of what you have put together. Congratulations. Please, let's have your last word.
The media team, we are showing one video now. You know me, I'm always showing video. Media team, are you ready?
Hello, everyone. I'm thrilled to announce that I'll be speaking at the upcoming CeBIH Masterclass on the future of AI in payment systems on the January 18th, 2025 at the University of Lagos Business School, Lagos, Nigeria. Artificial intelligence is not just reshaping the way we live, it's transforming the way we transact. From fraud detection to personalized banking experiences, AI is driving innovation in the payment industry like never before. At this masterclass, I'll be diving deep into these exciting advancements, connecting with industry experts, and exploring the strategies that will define the next generation of payment systems. And I can't wait to share insights, exchange ideas, and learn from you all. The CeBIH Masterclass is where thought leaders, innovators, and professionals come together to shape the future. If you're passionate about leveraging AI to revolutionize payments, this is the place to be. So, mark your calendars and join me at the CeBIH Masterclass at the University of Lagos Business School, Nigeria. Let's innovate, collaborate, and shape the future of payments together. See you there.
To do this, CeBIH is committed to this. Let me thank all of you for coming out. We will have more engagement, industry collaboration. What Massimo is coming to do in Nigeria, by the way, is a professor of AI. There are so many things AI is trying to do. And you heard from Bolo Hatefe, from Autogon AI. AI is, you saw from the little quiz that you put on board, how do you detect the next fraud from those number of transactions? You can't. It has to be digitally driven. These fraudsters are not playing. They are dealing with us electronically, and we want to be using ordinary eye to look at this thing. No, we will shine our eyes, and we are committed to doing this. We will keep learning, we'll keep training ourselves, we'll keep engaging at different platforms, using different platforms like this. But most importantly, it is important that we all participate, because that's the only way we can get this thing done. We need to get Nigeria out of the gray list, because if for any reason we enter the blacklist, it will be very horrible for all of us. Once again, I thank you all for coming, and see you next time. By the way, finally, CeBIH, because we are committed to this, end of year conference of NeFF, we will continuously take it over. Thank you very much. I was committing on behalf of my colleagues that yearly, annually, the end of year conference of CeBIH like this, of NeFF like this, CeBIH will champion it and take it over. Thank you very much. Because you didn't clap that first time, that's why I quickly reminded you. Thank you everyone for coming. We have lunch. I mean, breakfast has been on since, so we have lunch for you and a gift pack. Please don't forget your gift pack. Thank you for coming. For everyone that registered, those materials will be shared with you. For the people that registered, so just in case you didn't register, quickly go to that place and register again. So we are going to use your details that you put in there to register you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is on that note that we draw the curtains on the fourth quarter meeting